Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Marissa Marks, and I'm the marketing manager here at Trace Security. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end during Q&A. We will be sending out the slides and recording to all attendees next week. And to get us started, I want to introduce Trace Security and give you some background on our expertise in information security. With over 21 years in business, Trace Security continues to be a leading provider of cybersecurity and compliance solutions. Our company was founded on February 18th, 2004, as one of the first technology companies to incubate in the Louisiana Technology Park. Our company's mission at its founding was simple: to help banks and credit unions protect their customer and member information and comply with GLBA, FFIEC, and NCOA requirements. Since then, Trace Security has served over 3,000 organizations across the U.S. We maintain a strategic alliance with America's credit unions, which positions us as their exclusive provider of cybersecurity and compliance services. Trace Security's comprehensive portfolio of solutions allow organizations to manage their information security program through IT risk assessments and audits, social engineering, penetration testing, security training, and more. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to AJay Strong and Jordan Kalms, two of our information security analysts who are excited to dive into some supply chain risks for you guys today.
Hey everyone, my name is AJay Strong. I've been with Trace Security for a little over 2 years working as an information security analyst. I'm also a lead instructor for a cybersecurity bootcamp, and I recently earned a bachelor's in cybersecurity and information assurance from WGU.
Hi everyone, my name is Jordan Kalms. I started at Trace last year, and before joining the team here, I received my cybersecurity certification from Caltech and my CompTIA Security Plus certification. So many organizations depend on a broad network of third parties to deliver everything from software and infrastructure to logistical support and specialized services. This ecosystem, often referred to as a supply chain, is vital to modern business operations, but it also introduces significant and often misunderstood cybersecurity risk. One of the most important things we hope to clarify today is the distinction between a third-party service provider and a third-party supply chain vendor. And we also want to give you some examples of supply chain attacks and some mitigation strategies for how to avoid them. A third-party service provider is typically a company that delivers services directly to your organization. These include managed IT providers, SaaS platforms, cloud hosting companies, payment processors, and contractors with direct access to your systems or data. By contrast, a supply chain vendor often refers to the upstream or downstream entities that support the development, deployment, and delivery of the software and hardware that makes your business run. These include software component maintainers, firmware suppliers, package repositories, or even logistics vendors responsible for the physical delivery of your IT infrastructure. The distinction becomes critical when we look at supply chain attacks, which are cyber attacks that exploit the trust placed in these external vendors. Unlike direct attacks on an organization's systems, supply chain attacks target the products, services, or tools that your business integrates into its operations. This might involve compromising a popular software library, inserting malware into a firmware update, or hijacking a browser extension after it gains enough users to be trusted by default. In many cases, organizations are unaware that a compromised third party has introduced a vulnerability into their environment until it's too late.
The past few years have seen a dramatic increase in the volume and sophistication of these attacks, ranging from high-profile incidents like ASUS and microchip technology to more subtle campaigns involving hijacked installers or compromised browser add-ons. Attackers exploit the trust relationships and permissions granted to third parties, often bypassing perimeter defenses entirely. And because many organizations do not maintain full visibility into their extended supply chains, these attack vectors are notoriously difficult to detect and mitigate. During today's webinar, we'll explore several real-world examples of these attacks in action and discuss practical steps your organization can take to assess, monitor, and reduce supply chain risk. Our goal is to give you a clear understanding of where these risks originate, how attackers exploit them, and what proactive controls can help you defend against them. By the end of this session, you'll be better equipped to distinguish between different third-party relationships and recognize the critical role that supply chain security plays in your overall cybersecurity strategy. Now that we've set the stage with an overview, Jordan will walk us through the first part of today's discussion on supply chain attacks.
Thanks, AJ. So let's start with a definition. A supply chain attack is a type of cyber attack that targets an organization by exploiting its network of third-party suppliers, vendors, partners, or software components. Instead of directly attacking the primary target, which often has robust security, attackers find a weaker link in the supply chain to gain unauthorized access to the ultimate target's systems and/or data. According to a report issued by the cyber insurance provider Kalms, between 2021 and 2023, supply chain attacks surged by 431%, with projections indicating a continued rise into 2026. In 2022, NIST updated their guidelines to reflect this emerging trend. The revised publication, titled Cybersecurity Supply Chain Risk Management Practices for Systems and Organizations, provides guidance on identifying, assessing, and responding to cybersecurity risk throughout the supply chain at all levels. The publication specifically advises organizations to consider that vulnerabilities, not just within their production network, but within individualized components, which may have been developed elsewhere, as well as the journey that these components take to reach their destination. As with all NIST resources, this guide is available for free on their website, and we've included a link to the publication so you can easily access it here when we send the slides out after the webinar. As the interconnectedness of global supply chains increases, so does the risk of a single point of failure, leading to widespread compromise, highlighting the need for robust hardware security measures. And this brings us to our first supply chain attack that we're going to talk about today. In 2018, a Bloomberg Businessweek report alleged that Chinese spies had compromised the hardware supply chain of Supermicro, a major server motherboard manufacturer. The report claimed that tiny rice grain-sized microchips were secretly embedded into Supermicro motherboards during the manufacturing process in China. These compromised motherboards, according to the report, were then sold to various US companies, including tech giants like Apple and Amazon, as well as government contractors. The tiny chips were supposedly designed to create a stealthy backdoor, allowing Chinese intelligence agencies to gain long-term, undetected access to the networks and data of organizations using these affected servers. The Supermicro compromise was really the first of its kind and served as a major wake-up call by shifting focus from traditional software vulnerabilities to the threat of hardware-level supply chain attacks. It forced governments and major corporations to confront the possibility that malicious chips could be secretly implanted during the manufacturing process in foreign facilities, creating persistent backdoors in the very foundations of their digital infrastructure. The Supermicro attack is a good example of a direct business-to-business supply chain attack. One business infiltrates another's in order to bug its hardware. But another key element of supply chain attacks is their broader downstream impact. As an example of a broader supply chain compromise, we can look at the microchip technology attack of 2024. In August of that year, Microchip Technology, a major American semiconductor manufacturer, experienced widespread server outages that caused them to pause their entire manufacturing operation. The attack was later claimed by the Play ransomware gang out of Russia, but interestingly, the target of the attack does not seem to be Microchip Technology itself. Instead, by forcing the company to halt its manufacturing process, the attack was actually aimed at Microchip's long list of high-profile clients, including automotive, industrial, aerospace, and defense contractors. By bringing Microchip's production capacity offline, the Play ransomware gang prevented them from fulfilling hardware orders to their clients, and thereby created a hardware bottleneck for half a dozen US defense contractors. This attack is therefore a primary example of the kind of widespread operational dysfunction that can result from a single supply chain attack. And the third example we'll look at today is how software vulnerabilities can be used as the foundation for these types of attacks. The Shadow Hammer attack, which occurred in 2019, involved malicious actors compromising the Taiwanese hardware manufacturer Asus's servers to distribute weaponized software upgrades, digitally signed with legitimate certificates, to a vast number of users between June and November. This sophisticated supply chain attack leveraged the implicit trust users place in official software updates from a reputable vendor. By injecting malware into a trusted distribution channel and using valid credentials, the attackers effectively bypassed conventional security measures, demonstrating how a single compromise point within a software provider's infrastructure can be a highly effective conduit for spreading widespread yet highly targeted espionage operations, impacting potentially millions of users. The Shadowhammer attack really underscores how supply chain attacks leverage the dynamic nature of modern technology, and therefore the need for security as an ongoing practice rather than something that's simply performed once. Yes, you may only purchase a piece of hardware from a vendor once, but the continuous firmware and software updates you receive from that vendor represent an ongoing supply chain vulnerability that have to be continuously mitigated. So what's the best defense against these types of attacks? The answer really comes down to due diligence and vendor management. More than ever before, organizations must implement a comprehensive vetting process for all third-party vendors and partners. This involves conducting thorough due diligence before onboarding, assessing their cybersecurity posture, and understanding the supply chain dependencies that exist. Key actions include incorporating strict security requirements into contracts, demanding transparent disclosure of best security practices, performing regular security audits and pen tests, and requiring a software bill of materials for all software components to identify potential vulnerabilities. Additional preventative measures include continuous monitoring of supplier security, establishing clear incident response that's integrated with third parties, and fostering strong relationships with vendors to improve security. In a word, it really comes down to just knowing your vendors. And as a final example to touch on today, we'll zoom out from the enterprise level to the wider view of global security. One of the largest implications of supply chain risk in the modern world comes from ZPMC, a state-owned Chinese manufacturer that provides roughly 80% of ship-to-shore cranes in the US. In recent years, investigations by the US House of Representatives have raised alarms about these cranes' ability to serve as, quote, Trojan horses. These cranes are sophisticated, internet-connected systems that handle sensitive data on container contents, origins, and destinations. Reports allege that some cranes have been found with unauthorized cellular modems that could bypass port security firewalls and allow for remote data collection. The FBI reportedly discovered intelligence gathering equipment at ZPMC cranes in the port of Baltimore. Even more concerning, the control systems of these cranes can be remotely accessed and manipulated. In a worst-case scenario, this could result in a foreign adversary shutting down port operations and crippling the country's supply chain, causing potentially billions of dollars of damage per day. This threat is particularly concerning for ports that handle both commercial and military shipments. ZPMC has been criticized for lacking provisos that prohibit or limit unauthorized modifications or access to their equipment. This has created a loophole that could allow for the installation of malicious hardware and software without breaching their contract, technically. In response to these risks, the US government has taken action, including issuing executive orders to enhance maritime cybersecurity and committing significant funds to strengthen port infrastructure and domestic crane manufacturing. And now that we've scared you with some of these global threats, let's narrow down on some of the supply chain risks that are more relevant to your day-to-day life.
All right, so as Jordan mentioned, supply chain attacks target trusted external dependencies that organizations rely on. What's important to recognize is that these attacks can occur even without formal contract or vendor agreement. Take, for example, a browser extension from the Chrome web store. We use these extensions regularly, but there's no traditional vendor relationship with Google in this context. If asked to provide a vendor list, you likely wouldn't include Chrome. Still, Chrome is providing a product that is integrated into your environment, and if that product is compromised, your environment can be compromised as well. In other words, the extension becomes a threat vector, making it a valid example of a supply chain attack. A recent case shows exactly how this risk can play out in practice. Just last month, in July 2025, security researchers uncovered a widespread browser hijacking campaign involving 18 previously benign extensions on both the Chrome and Edge web stores. These extensions included tools like color pickers, emoji keyboards, and VPN utilities, and they had accumulated millions of downloads and positive reviews over time. After being quietly updated with malicious code, they began exhibiting unauthorized behaviors such as hijacking web sessions, redirecting users to phishing pages or scam sites, and in some cases, stealing session cookies and clipboard data. What made this attack particularly insidious is that the extensions weren't malicious when they were first installed. Users trusted them based on reputation and longevity. Investigators believe attackers either purchased control of dormant extensions or compromised the original developer accounts, turning once legitimate tools into vehicles for exploitation. So how can organizations and individuals avoid falling victim to similar browser-based threats? A good starting point is to regularly audit installed extensions and remove those that are unnecessary or rarely used. It's also critical to review the permissions granted to each extension, particularly those asking for access to all website data, which should raise some red flags. In enterprise environments, administrators can further reduce risk by enforcing browser policies that restrict usage to a vetted list of approved extensions. And finally, using privacy-focused browsers and security-oriented add-ons that monitor or limit third-party data access can provide an additional layer of defense. Another campaign from mid-2025 leveraged fake download sites that were optimized through search engine poisoning. Attackers created spoofed websites mimicking legitimate software such as PuTTY, WinSCP, and FileZilla. These spoofed domains often appeared at the top of Google search results when users searched for strings such as download PuTTY or similar phrases. The sites looked authentic and offered download links that delivered a malware loader known as Oyster. Once installed, Oyster silently created scheduled tasks to maintain persistence on the system and could pull down additional payloads, including credential stealers, backdoors, or ransomware. This campaign was effective because it preyed on a common user behavior, which is relying on search results for software downloads rather than navigating directly to the official developer site. The best defense against these attacks combines technical safeguards with cautious browsing habits. Always verify that downloads come from the official sources or reputable repositories like GitHub or the vendor's own website. When in doubt, services such as VirusTotal or URL Scan can help vet a site before you install anything. At the organizational level, DNS filtering can be used to block access to known malicious domains, helping prevent accidental downloads from poisoned search results. DNS filtering combined with other layered controls helps close off this very common entry point for supply chain attacks. Another notable incident this year was the resurgence of the Atomic Stealer malware, this time with enhanced capabilities. Targeting Mac OS users, this info stealer was primarily distributed through cracked or pirated applications shared on torrent sites, piracy forums, and Telegram channels. Once a tampered application is installed, Atomic Stealer prompts for elevated permissions such as screen recording and accessibility access. With those privileges, it silently harvests sensitive data including documents, iCloud keychain passwords, browser autofill information, and cryptocurrency wallet details. The latest variant also incorporates techniques to evade sandboxing and basic anti-malware analysis, making it significantly harder to detect and remove. To mitigate this threat, the first and most important step is to avoid downloading cracked or pirated software altogether. Mac users should also take advantage of built-in protections like Gatekeeper and Xprotect, which block unsigned or known malicious applications. For additional defense, tools such as Objective-C's BlockBlock or Lulu can alert users when apps attempt suspicious activity. Finally, make it a habit to regularly review your applications to see which hold elevated system permissions. This simple step can help catch unauthorized changes early before they escalate into data theft or system compromise. On the mobile front, researchers uncovered a malicious Android app disguised as a legitimate PDF and document viewer. The app, called Document Manager File Reader, had over 50,000 installs on the Google Play Store, but was actually a dropper for the banking Trojan Anatsa. Once installed, it prompted users for accessibility permissions, which allowed it to monitor screen activity and overlay fake interfaces on top of legitimate banking apps. Through these capabilities, it could intercept login credentials, hijack SMS-based two-factor authentication, and exfiltrate sensitive data back to the attackers. What makes Anatsa particularly dangerous is its delayed activation. The malware can remain dormant for several days after installation, slipping past initial malware scans and avoiding user suspicion. The implications for mobile security are serious because many users inherently trust apps from the Play Store, assuming that platform vetting makes them safe. To reduce the risk of mobile malware, avoid installing brand new apps that have very few reviews and carefully examine the permissions requested during setup. Google Play Protect offers some protection, but it should be paired with third-party mobile security tools that specialize in detecting behavior-based anomalies. If a compromise is suspected, rebooting the device in safe mode can make it easier to manually remove persistent malicious apps. In enterprise environments, mobile device management solutions add another layer of defense by enforcing app policies and monitoring for suspicious activity. And finally, another cross-platform threat that surfaced this year is a malware variant known as ClickFix. It spreads primarily through drive-by downloads, where users are redirected to malicious domains simply by visiting a compromised website or clicking shortened URLs on social media or forums. The redirection typically leverages malicious JavaScript embedded in the original site, and victims are often prompted to install what appears to be a browser update or mobile system cleaner. On desktops, ClickFix has been used to deploy info stealers and cryptocurrency miners. On mobile devices, it often installs click fraud apps or fake security tools that bombard users with aggressive pop-ups and subscription scams. One of its most deceptive traits is the way it impersonates legitimate software notifications, making it especially difficult for non-technical users to spot the threat. Preventing drive-by downloads requires both browser hardening and user awareness. Installing content blockers like uBlock Origin, which filters known malware domains, is a strong first step. More technical users can go further with tools like NoScript or uMatrix to block JavaScript execution by default. It's also wise to avoid clicking on shortened URLs unless you preview them with a service like unshorten.me. Keeping browsers and operating systems fully updated adds another layer of defense, and on mobile devices, using privacy-focused browsers with built-in tracking and phishing protection, such as DuckDuckGo or Firefox Focus, can significantly reduce risk. So each of the attack vectors we've discussed, browser extensions, fake download sites, pirated apps, Trojanized mobile tools, and drive-by redirects, illustrate a broader trend, and that is that cyber criminals are increasingly targeting the trust we place in small, convenient digital extras. Whether it's an extension we install to pick color codes, a free PDF reader app, or a one-click download from a search result, attackers know that the path of least resistance is through our everyday habits. The takeaway is clear. Security isn't just about what antivirus tool you run. It's about what you install, how you install it, and where it comes from. Practicing good digital hygiene, relying on layered defenses, and applying critical thinking when interacting with any add-on or installer are essential to staying ahead of these evolving threats. And with that, I will hand it back over to Marissa for the Q&A.
All right, we are gonna get into any questions y'all have asked throughout, and feel free to drop more as we go if you think of anything. So AJ, earlier you mentioned some privacy-oriented browsers and extensions, and I know you just mentioned DuckDuckGo and the Firefox Focus, but do you have any specific extensions that you would also recommend for added privacy?
Yeah, so on the extension side, I mentioned uBlock Origin. That uses community-maintained filter lists to block ads and trackers and malicious domains. And there's one called Privacy Badger, which learns and blocks trackers based on behavior rather on static lists. And then there's also NoScript, which is available for Firefox, and it allows advanced users to control exactly what scripts and executable content can run. And so that just provides really strong protection against those drive-by attacks that I had mentioned.
Okay. All right, I got, how can small and medium-sized institutions be proactive in regards to supply chain attacks?
Yeah, so for this one, the truth is that it's difficult to be proactive with these types of attacks. That's usually the advice we give, is to be proactive. But with these types of attacks, it's really about being highly reactive and having trust in your vendors and very strong incident response that's integrated with your supply chain vendors, so that when something does happen, whether it's a breach or just a notification of a breach, you're able to get in contact with the right people and integrate your incident response to it coherently.
Great, thanks, Jordan. Let's see. For detecting security on your mobile phone, are there any specific third-party security tools that you would recommend for mobile?
Yeah, I can take that one. So there are some advanced third-party mobile security tools that are designed to detect threats, not just by scanning for known malware signatures, but by identifying behavior-based anomalies. So this means they watch how apps behave once installed and flag anything suspicious or unexpected. Some of the most popular options are Lookout Security and Antivirus, Zimperium, Norton Mobile Security, Trend Micro Mobile Security, and Sophos Intercept X for mobile.
Gotcha, thank you. I did have someone ask what the correct URL is to download PuTTY.
Yeah, I saw that. So your best bet is to go to PuTTY's official download page. That is maintained by a developer. His name is Simon Tatham, Tatham. And so that will include the latest stable release and download links. I can put, can I put a link in the chat? Am I allowed to do that? Let me see if I can. Print reply, paste. Did that go?
Let me publish it. It should be up.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah, y'all should be able to see that the official link for PuTTY on there. Do you want to describe what PuTTY is real quick for those who may not know?
Yeah. So it's a tool. You can use it in. I've only used it in Kali. I'm not sure if it's cross-platform, but its main function is to connect to remote servers via SSH. But it also it supports other protocols like Telnet. It comes with a function where you can generate and manage SSH keys. You can also do secure file transfers. It is an open source tool, so it's free. Yeah, I just, let's see here. I've used it in Linux. It looks like you can also use it for Mac OS and other platforms. So it is cross-platform.
Cool, thank you. It looks like that might be all the questions we have, but of course, if y'all think of anything later, feel free to shoot us an email. And we'll be happy to answer any questions for you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today.